Hello and welcome back to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show where we meet up and coming indie authors and talk to them about the recently released books. Welcome back. Again, this is Ray Walters. Today's guest brings us into a world where precision meets chaos, where discipline is tested daily, and where the sky is both a proving ground and a place of freedom. This author draws from the high intensity environment of Navy flight training to tell a story that's as exhilarating as it is human. Through vivid storytelling, we're taken into the cockpit, experiencing not just the technical demands of flight, but the personalities, pressures, and unforgettable moments that shape those who choose this path. The book blends adrenaline, humor, and authenticity, offering readers a front row seat to the making of aviators, where every decision matters and every lesson is earned. Joining us today is the author of the Goodflyers, Lords of the Emerald Coast, John J. Domina. John, welcome to the Author Roundup.
Great to be here, Ray.
Pleasure is mine. John, congratulations in getting this book published. This came out last year, right? August of last year,
Yes.
2025. How has it been so
Yeah.
far?
Been great. I've just started unpeeling the edges here and for promotion and everything. I'm a writer. I'm not a salesman, so there's a lot involved when you publish a book. Interesting, challenging things that I like them. I just have to get going with it. But it's been going great. I went to just came back from the LA Festival of Books, which is run by
Nice.
the LA Times, and that was
Mm,
really an amazing experience. The book did well, actually. So it
nice.
just happens by itself. You don't have to be a salesman or anything.
Tell us a little about your experience there at the LA Book Festival.
Oh, wow. There was so many people. There must have been, I swear there was about 100,000 people walking around there. I got to speak with the highlight was talking to Tom Selleck, actually. He
Mm,
was there promoting he has a book out as well. And I got to talk to him for about 4 or 5 minutes, which was I remember him well from back in the day, Magnum and all that.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Um, and Lionel Richie was there. I guess he had a few things to say about books. Pat Benatar and her husband has a book out. So they were there speaking, got to see them. But the world of authors is quite a wow.
Mhm.
What a world. So many authors, so much insight, interesting people that I've never knew existed. And I was never exposed to that kind of world before. And it was great, a great experience. A long way to go with a bunch of books, but it was a great experience.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
Oh
For
yeah.
for for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, let me walk you through what the Good Flyers, Lords of the Emerald Coast is without giving away too much spoilers. Now, I've already said this, but let me repeat it. This book takes us into the fast-paced, high-stakes world of Navy flight training where young pilots are pushed to their limits in the skies above Florida's Emerald Coast.
Hmm.
Now, through the eyes of a seasoned instructor, we experience the thrill of flight, the pressure of responsibility, and the unpredictable journey of shaping raw students into aviators. The book's story
Exactly.
is filled with intense aerial maneuvers. You have sharp humor and unforgettable personalities, but at its core, it's about mentorship, discipline, and what it really takes to earn the right to fly in a world where there's no margin for error. Now, I'm very much curious, John, to know your inspiration, why you wrote this book, what inspired you.
Well, I lived it for 4 years, obviously, as a naval flight instructor down there in Pensacola. And it was just too extraordinary of an experience not to go untold, to go untold. I had to put that on paper. I don't
Mhm.
know why it hasn't been done before. The magic of flight, the contrast between the beauty of the sky where you're in total charge, you're literally a god up there. And then when you land, the drama on the ground, you become an earthling again, and everything's the competition, the heated competitions, love affairs and
Uh,
everything that happens around you makes you immortal again. So there was quite a contrast. Besides the stories themselves, the flying stories, and of course, the stories on the ground, it was just too much not to put on paper. When you were in the sky, like you mentioned, flying over the beautiful emerald green waters of the Pensacola area and the white sands, and you were literally in charge of everything. There was nothing, not a problem in the world as long as that thing was humming the way you had it humming, your T-34. Then, of course, you had to deal with the students, but that was also a joy in itself to see them progress.
uh,
Um, it was just, it was one of those, you wanted somebody to see you up there. It was so cool. You wish there were cameras on you and go, I wish my friends could see me. I mean, it was just an amazing experience that I guess very few people really have the opportunity to experience. So I wanted to put that in words. I wanted to put people in the cockpit. I wanted them to smell that metal in there, to see the beaches tumbling upside down above you as you're going through a loop. Hear the rush of the air over the canopy, feel the G's, hear that turboprop roar, all magically put together, and that's really was an inspiration for that, along with, of course, the ground drama, which there was plenty of that, as you know, in the book. You know,
Was
interesting
that a
story.
specific moment that made you realize the story had to be told? Like, not, I wish I could actually fly a jet or be at the back seat of it, right? I, when I read the preface of your book, you described the experience as too wild, and I can only
Yeah.
imagine it. Was that a specific moment that made you realize the story had to be told? Like, the pull of
Yes,
the G's.
it was. You know when it was? It was when my tour was coming to an end. And I was thinking back, going, "Wow, what a 4 years it's been! What an incredible experience!" And I realized it was going to go away because it was over,
Mm,
and I wanted to capture that. I wanted to keep that alive. So I figured I'm going to write about it. I'm going to write about the experiences, and I'm going to put people in that cockpit, put them on the beaches and the bars in Pensacola, and feel the
uh,
competition, the heated competition, the love affairs, all that stuff that went on all around. The failures, the achievements. There was so much of that. The joy, the sadness. It was just too much not to put on paper. So when it was coming to an end, it was so sad. I'm going, wow, it's over, man. You can't just say, I want to stay more in the Navy on your current tour. You just got to move on. And that's when I realized I wanted to write it and capture it and keep it. And I really had to let people know what that was all about.
what were
And
you hoping to accomplish with the story or overall message?
well, there's several messages. You know, so much strong leadership in the Navy, especially with pilots. Many of them the A-type personality. But there was messages. Some of the strongest among us, are the first to crack. When
Mm,
pressure hits them,
mhm,
and when the only way you know how to exist is to be in charge and be perfect. What happens when that cracks? When all
mhm,
these things come together, because everybody's like that. You can't have everybody the same way. All these molecules come together, and there's failure, there's achievement, and I wanted people to see that,
mm.
along with the beauty of flight and the drama of everything that happens on the ground. Um, so there was a lot of that going on. Um, Obsession with perfection can lead to bad decisions. And that's what was happening also, because that was a system built on perfection, that school.
Yeah.
And when the competition with the other squadrons become an obsession with winning and being number one, both in the air and on the ground, things begin
Mhm.
to fail. Things go wrong, and and it happened without giving away things in the book. So I kind of wanted to show that as well.
That's
What
very
really
interesting.
defines you as a man, as a person, as a woman, as a flight instructor, um, when everything collides like that.
I'd have to say that. part of your book actually is very much interesting. Interesting, very interesting to read. John, take us through how real the events are, especially, the flying scenes in the T-34C. Some of the
Okay.
training moments, like those early, aerobatic attempts, feel incredibly vivid. Um, I guess, how close do those reflect real experiences?
That is a real experience. Uh, the very first chapter with McGrady
Mm,
going through his aerobatic syllabus is not only real, but it's not too uncommon for a student who's got his first go at aerobatics. It's pretty overwhelming. I mean, you could study all you want on paper, learn all the maneuvers and everything that's going to happen and what you're supposed to do at certain times during the maneuver. But once you get in the airplane and things are going faster, everything's happening around you dynamically, it's a whole different thing to combine what you study, what you learn, what you're supposed to do to actually doing it with G forces and noises and things bouncing around and if it's not smooth air, it adds to the challenge. Um, so it's very real what happened in that first chapter. It's unusual that a student will come in. This was an aerobatic syllabus that first flight. Yes, with McGregor. Very unusual. A guy will come in and just nail it. It's impossible. There are some people that do have prior flight experience that do better. On the
mm.
other side, they can do worse because they bring their civilian experience with them, and the Navy teaches it in a different way that doesn't really mesh. But that was a real, very real experience. And I was lucky to capture that because I started writing it early when I left the Navy. And then I put it aside for a long time to finish a book in the last 4 years, 3 years. If I would have waited for everything, I would have forgot a lot of those procedures because I've been out of the Navy for so long now.
Oh.
But that was very real. And you're sitting in there during an aerobatic flight, with uh, Pizza McGrady.
Let's talk about your experience in writing this book. Um,
Okay.
I know it took you some time.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to complete the entire story? I mean, the entire book itself.
I started it right after I got out of flight school, or right after I got out of the Navy,
Mm,
1989, 1990. And then after about 40 pages, I put it aside because I started flying with a civilian airline, and that was a lot of fun in itself. And it just, swept you away in a way, a whole different world. But about 3 years ago, I started looking over those notes 3 or 4 years ago, and I said, this is pretty good. I captured the essence of it, and I want to finish it. So it really took me close to 2 years to finish that story I probably worked on it for a year after I got out of the Navy and
mm.
another couple of 2.5 years to finish it. So what, 3.5 years in total to write it?
Did the process feel like reliving memories as you wrote, or did you have to reconstruct a lot along the way?
There was a lot of memories that will never go away. They're
Yeah.
there. And I did reconstruct a lot of events. I added, and that's why it's historical fiction.
Mm.
Changed everybody's name. Some people who were there probably say, "Hey, I think that was me," but I couldn't use it as a documentary because I mean I was afraid people would get in trouble or something. I mean, we didn't do exactly everything by the book. Sometimes we really improvised for the better, but still. So there was reconstruction. There were some events that were exaggerated just for entertainment,
Yeah.
but all within the realm of reality of what happens, or what can happen in Navy flight school and everybody's personal lives on the side. And as you know, there was a lot of that in the book,
Uh,
both happy and sad, victorious and tragic.
which
Uh,
part was enjoyable for you to write, and which was the most challenging? That's very interesting to know.
yeah, I mean the flying was the funnest. I mean it put me back in the cockpit.
Yeah.
And I think that's a general thing when you write stories, you're in there. That's why I like to write. It just puts you in the story. So it put me back in the cockpit and I was getting excited about it. All the little things that happen from, little things that come up from the floor when you're upside down in a loop, little pencils that someone left from days ago hitting the canopy, all those little tiny things besides all the major events of a flight. And so that was the funnest part of it. I think going through some of the establishments in Pensacola brought back a lot of memories, and that was fun. All the establishments are real in that story. There's nothing made up. Um, that was a lot of fun to write. So I'd say the flying and just life in Pensacola in general, going to the bars and the restaurants and driving down those roads. Kind
Uh,
of miss that actually.
I know our viewers and listeners are also interested to know if you have any memorable anecdotes from that writing experience of yours, aside from reliving the memories and reconstructing stories and just having fun.
It wasn't all fun. There was a lot of drama, as you know. Um, that one aerobatic flights, with, for example, with that McGrady, weird things that happen in the flight pattern when somebody doing their own thing. It's in the book, breaking the rules, and you're wondering what the heck's going on. You'll never forget stuff like that.
Mhm.
Your encounters with your, ladies or whatever, I don't know you want to call it. It goes both ways. We had both female and male flight instructors, but love affairs down there. I mean, that was a town full of romance, Pensacola. Everybody was on the prowl down there. So a lot of memories there, if you want to put it that way. It was just so much put together in one package in
It's
those
actually
four
very
years
fun.
that I was there. Yeah.
It was a fun read for me, actually. Uh, o- okay. I want to go ahead and ask this. This came out August last year.
Yeah.
Very much interested to know, share to us some of the feedback or reviews you've received. I know you came from the LA Book Festival, so yeah.
I yeah, I do have some of the reviews here. I didn't memorize them, but it got a lot of good reviews, even from some people overseas. I don't know how they got a hold of it. You want me to, yeah,
Go ahead.
an unforgettable journey, exhilarating, Top Gun meets Platoon and more. Um, Beautifully written like Top Gun meets Hemingway. I'll take that. I'll take that for a compliment. And then the strap-in roller coaster ride you won't soon forget. Um, I'm trying to find one that's a little different here. A rare collusion of flying adventures, love affairs, murder mystery, and the relentless pursuit of perfection against the backdrop of the emerald green waters and sugar white sands. And I like this one. Never been flying? Strap in. This is it. Pretty typical.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this demands a sequel. I have a couple people ask me about that. So
I
I'm
demand a
flattered with
sequel.
some of those reviews. I mean, or comments, I should say.
I actually demand a sequel. Not sure if I'm allowed to say that,
Well,
but
yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna do it. There's so much room for that. You know that you read the book, there's so many ways I can go with that. And I have an idea which way I want to go. And it just keeps going.
any
Um,
of the feedbacks or feedback you've received so far that surprised you, that stood out in a meaningful way?
in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
In other words, have I touched anybody's lives with that story? Other than praising for the book, um, I think it drew some attention to naval aviation. People are interested now
Yeah.
in the flight program. It was funny. I was at the fair that fair in LA. I had parents with their kids, even 10, 12-year-olds asking um, about the flight program. They read the premise of the book. They didn't obviously read the book on site, but they
Mm.
were interested and walked away with it. So I think, gosh, it's almost like a recruiting tool for the Navy. I didn't intend it to be that way, you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
But I don't, about life lessons, man, I don't know. It's all about power and, obsession. And sometimes the things that you are doesn't protect you from who you really are. Your uniform, your skills, your status level can't protect you from who you really are. And I was
Mm.
trying to expose that in the book. I'm sure you've caught some of that in the story. People crack, people stumble, no matter how high they're held, in other people's eyes.
Yeah.
And not sure what more I could say about that. Um, I'm sure if I read it myself again, I'll even get more out of it, because there's a lot in there. It was,
Sure,
and you
sure.
brought up other people's comments and things. I've gotten a lot of suggestions to break. It's 428 pages. And so I've been told if I made it into two books, it would be more manageable, which I mean, in the old day, everybody, a novel was a novel. It was always 400 or 500 pages. I guess nowadays people like to read on the fly. So that was one comment that I've got a few times. Be great as two different stories. I mean, it's a perfect spot to split that book in half too, but I was thinking about that. Yeah. See
I'm
how
now
it goes.
curious, John.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to go back to the root of it all, your
Yeah.
desire to fly. How did your interest in flying begin? What first drew you to it? Because you were talking about, kids now during the LA Fair,
Yeah.
asking about the flight school. So how did your journey also begin?
Okay. First of all, what kid doesn't like airplanes? Come on, you know,
Yeah. True,
to
true.
start. Um, but I don't want it to sound typical, but out in Long Island in New York, I like to hunt birds. I was a bird hunter. My family going back way back to the old days. So there's a place out called Rocky Point, which was right up next to the Grumman Airfield where they tested the F-14s and the A-6s and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And you can hunt pheasants there. I mean, it was weird. You can go down the rows where they'd have the pheasants, all that, the pine trees and the fields, and then you see the fence. You can get close to that fence, and you could. I was there one day, and there were F-14s are going up and down, back and forth. I went, holy cow! And so I started going there, not just to hunt, sometimes not even to hunt, to watch those planes. I mean, wow. I mean, that was a spot you could sit and watch, like being at the air show up close. But, just it was just there. Go at the end of the hunting area by the fence and watch those planes flying by. So that really inspired me. Now, I was studying to be a journalist or a sports writer, and I was looking at Newsday, which used to be one of the top 10 newspapers in the country out in Long Island. I don't know what happened to newspapers in general, but they really dwindled down. So one day I came on campus, and here was this guy, this naval officer dressed in his whites. He was
Um,
recruiting, and he had next to him a silver Corvette, a couple of girls in bikinis there, and he
okay.
had a big screen with F-14s flying around and music, rock music just blasting. And I walked up, I said, can I sign up for this? I want to do this. He didn't have to say a word. It was an amazing setup, and the rest is history. So I did. I looked into that program. Almost didn't make it because I hurt my knee playing football. In fact, the recruiter said, I don't think they're going to let you in because of the severity of the knee repair that you had. And I just said, no, I'm not going to back down from this. So the guy finally called back. The recruiter said, if you can do a duck walk across the floor here in my office, you're in. So that's what I did. And that was it. I signed up, and that's what got me interested, primarily watching those F-14s and that setup that recruiter had. And the fact that there was a block, there was something keeping me from getting in my knee, and that made me want it even more. And I think I put that message in the book. Sometimes some things get so hard to get that you want badly, and the harder it is to get it, the more you want it, like the guy from Duluth in the story. And that's what happened to me, especially when you said I couldn't get in because of my knee. I said, no, there's no way. There is no way I'm not getting in. I just went over the top, and I finally was able to get in. But that was the inspiration for me wanting to do that, watching those F-14s and seeing that setup, and that was it. I did not fly F-14s in the Navy, but still, I was there.
I was about to ask you actually if you've flown an F-14 and an
No,
F-18.
no, I did not. But some of my students did. It was funny. I ran into a couple of them on the USS Theodore Roosevelt during the first Iraq War, Desert Storm. I
Yeah.
was in the Navy Reserves, went out on the carrier on the tour through the Gulf, to the Persian Gulf there with it. And I ran into some F-14 pilots, a couple of them that were my students. And I went, wow, you guys are amazing, and because I did not go jets, I went props. But
Mm.
still, when you're teaching in flight school, that's where everybody starts, and they blouse them out to fly whatever, whether it's F-14s, F-18s, helicopters, C-131s like I did, C-12s, stuff like that. So very interesting world.
It is. John, why is the in the Navy flight school, why is the competition so intense? I had the, I've seen a couple of movies about it, and
Uh,
sometimes I'd like to believe that it's not that intense. It's just for
no.
the creative side of the entertainment that they're making it as intense. But is there some truth to it? And if there is, why is it so intense?
You know why? Because the Navy system, the flight school, the people, they look for that. They select from that type of personality, from they look for the high achievers, with the strong drives, the stress tolerance, the decisiveness, the need to be in charge, the
Mm,
mastery of what they do. It sounds kind of weird, but that's the type of personality that they look for. And all you bring all those guys together, and that competition naturally flares up. It's an incredible assembly of that type of personalities. Um, and competition is just fierce. The refusal to be number two, the need to
yeah,
be the winner in
best.
charge. And that's where these people come from their whole life, whether they're sports stars or whatever. We do have a lot of sports stars that come aboard and decide to be Navy pilots. Like the one guy in the story, which I shouldn't say too much about that, but he could have played pro football, and he decided he was going to be a Navy pilot. Kind of funny, but so that's what they select from, these type of personalities, all in the name of naval aviation, to be the best you can be. Attention to detail, all that stuff. Um, So that's how they select these guys, and that's when you put them all together, that's what happens, man. It just flares up into competition, head banging, and I'm not going to lose to you, and I'm not going to be number two. And it does pay off in the end because they're great pilots. They're in charge. You have to be in charge when you're in the cockpit, and I think that's what puts it all together. That type of personality. Are they all like that? No, there are some that get in. They're just, don't know how they get in, and some of them don't do very well.
Mhm.
Um, but that's why that competition is so hot. That's why they're so fierce on each other. It's the type of personalities the Navy selects for that program, which is a good idea. And that's what you want, to be in charge of your multi-million-dollar airplanes.
John,
Um,
definitely there's a risk in this type of job, but still there are pilots so deeply drawn to what they do. Why
yeah.
is that? Just the
Oh
fun of
God.
driving? I mean, flying a plane, or is it
It's
the bragging rights that I'm in the Navy? How does that work?
That's a part of it, and I can't speak on behalf of every pilot out there, of course, but excuse my language, it's just a badass job. It's so cool,
It is
it's hard
cool.
to beat.
Very cool.
This machine you're flying in the air, the projection of speed and power, the beauty of the skies. And when you're up there, that's your world. You are in charge. There is no, late credit card payment notices or anything like that when you're up there. This is your domain, your world, and you're screaming through that sky. And every input has a direct response. It's so simple, back and forth. There's no mystery. There's no nothing. And I think what attracts other people is just there is danger up there, obviously, but there's so much beauty, and within that beauty lies dangers as well. So that challenge attracts people up into the sky, besides everything else. It really gives you a feeling of being the coolest dude in the world, and doing at and being at the controls of your airplane, um, with the coolest job in the world. I mean, that's what we feel. That's what most of us feel. Um, I can't imagine people that walk away from there and go, God, this sucked. I hated this. I mean, no, that doesn't happen with this job. For example, me, I mean, I'm a retired airline pilot. I got out of the Navy and went to the airline and said, boy, I miss it, man. I mean, you have no choice when you're 65, you have to get out, uh, commercial aviation. And I miss it. I mean, how many people a lot of people I know that when they retire, They can't wait to get out. I'm done. Now I'm going to go fishing, hunting, all that. But, flying, having my little spaceship around me, I flew the A330 the last 3, 4 years, and I really
Wow.
miss that. I miss that. Um, but what can you do? You get too old, you get too old. No way around it.
I was about to ask you if you flew on a an Airbus or a Boeing plane.
I did. I flew a lot. I
A380,
flew.
yeah, Airbus. But did you get to fly both?
Well, no, you
Both
fly.
types or brands?
I flew 10 years in the A320 and three and a half
A320.
years on the 330, and that was my last of the career. That was a wide body that I flew all over the place, from India, China, Japan, all the way to Tel Aviv, and that way. Um, and that was just, I can't describe how fun it is to, people think, oh, you're going to sit up there for hours and hours. No, there's so much going on around you. It's so much beauty, and taking off and landing that 330 was some of the funnest things I've ever done. It was just such a joy to do it. I don't know how to describe it. You think, all right, you take off and you land, but there's a lot more to it than that. It's an art. So I miss it.
I did ask you about the risk because I know it's a risky job. It's all, well, forgive me if I'm going to say this, it's all fun when you're training, when you're flying
Yeah.
missions, but when you're at war, I think that's where the risk is, or
Oh, it's
where the risk becomes higher.
yes. It's an unforgiving job. That's why you have, that pursuit of perfection is
Yeah.
very real. There is no room for you're going too fast and you're too high up in the air to make a mistake that can kill yourself or destroy the airplane or kill others behind you. So there's a very real danger to it. And that's part of the attraction to that challenge, the challenge to overcome that and master it while you're up there in the sky. And in those dangers, like we talked about, were all the beauty also around you. So it's an incredible world up there. But yeah, their dangers are very real. I mean, I remember things that go, things that really happen that you practice, for example, in the airlines, you go into simulators and do a lot of practicing there, and it's very good. I mean, things happen. That your response to emergency procedures as you practice in the simulators it directly relates to real life. It works. But when it happens to you when you're not in the simulator, it's like, holy crap. You're up there and you're flying, you got uh, 250 people behind you, and you got
Yeah.
your first officer looking at you going, okay, here we go. It's a whole different thing. It's um, different than being in the simulator going, oh, okay, and if it doesn't work out well, we'll reset it and do it again. You can't reset anything up in the air, and that's a challenge. But that's what we do.
Your book communicates leadership in it. Like there's
Yeah.
leadership messages all over the book. Can you tell us about this? What message about leadership does the Good Flyer uh, communicate to its readers?
Well, leadership is important, but there's a lot of flaws in it too. You dress up in your uniform, you're in charge, you go to the base, but like I was saying before, sometimes your skills, your uniform, and everything else can't protect you from who you really are.
Yeah.
Um, so you have to be aware of that because as an instructor, your reputation follows you everywhere you go. There's students everywhere. They're going to be watching you, whether you're in the bars, on the beach. So you have to be aware of that, maintain that kind of composure as a flight instructor, as a leader, in the Navy. And it's very important that you adhere to that. So I think the book touches a little bit on that, and it touches the flaws and what happens when all that falls apart in the spirit of competition, which spirals into something darker in this world because, winning becomes an obsession and then the line blurs between the achievement and the darkness. So there is a lot of messages on leadership and how to avoid those pitfalls, in a way. But in this book, they don't do a good job, some of these people avoiding them. So,
All right. John, we have a lot of viewers and listeners out there who are also writing their first book. So Could you share us an advice? What would it be? What would you want to give to someone
Oh yeah.
working on their first book?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, do it, okay? Don't say I've met people, yeah, I'm gonna. Well, you're getting older and older and older, and time goes by, and you might not be here tomorrow. And you've heard this before. Do it. Make sure you make your dream come true. And before I follow up more, I like to tell people this, some of the richest place in the universe is the graveyards because people take with them their dreams, the stories that they wanted to write, all their ambitions that they didn't do, and they're there and they're gone and they're all the rich. So make sure you do it. Don't wait. Don't delay. Um, and don't let a novel intimidate you. And if you want some suggestions on how I learned, just the outline is good. Write your story for whatever comes to mind. If you can't think of something, skip it. Keep going, keep going, keep going. If you can't think of the solution to one situation, go to the next one. And as you know, as every author knows, when you go back and look at it, it all magically starts to fill in. It's just incredible how that works. So I think a lot of people get stumped on detail and what happens next. Just keep on going, make it happen and be inspired by what you write. Get yourself into that story, whether it's whatever genre it might be. Um,
Thank you for that advice, John. Now,
but it's good
before we're
advice.
going to close this interview, John, where can we grab a copy of the Goodflyers?
Well, it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Also, there's a couple of websites there. Books by JohnDomina.com and JohnDominaBooks.com.
All right.
But JohnDominaBooks.com has a direct connection to where you can just buy one right away. Um, it's also, you can read it, ebooks through Amazon, I believe it is, and it's there. Grab a copy and read it and hang on.
Right, you should. And you can find those links at the description box. Please check it out. John, my last question for you is,
Yes, Ray.
um, what do you hope readers walk away thinking about once they've finished reading your book?
Well, I hope they understand. Really, and I forgot to mention this, it's not easy to get your wings in the Navy, so I hope they can see that through this whole story. You really have to work. It's not a given. I mean, it's like 1 in 4,000 will get from the time they're recruited to the time they get their wings. And there's a lot to be learned about leadership and what it really is and what it means and the downfalls of being on top sometimes if you don't, tread lightly or tread the way you're supposed to walk. Um, I also liked them to see the beauty of the Gulf Coast there, man. It was so beside the beaches, historic Pensacola and that whole area. I really wanted to put them in there and feel it, and feel the romance. There's some romance in that story, and then the spirit of competition, especially in those rugby games that are in there. But there's a
Beautifully
lot
described,
going
John.
on in that book, so it's an experience. It's not a one-sided kind of thing. There's things going on everywhere. I wanted them to enjoy that whole experience.
John, such a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much for discussing your book with us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here, Ray. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. I also would want to give a big shout out to our awesome viewers and listeners for joining us for this interview. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on the Author Roundup. I'm Ray Walters. Join me next time as we explore the world of supported self publishing, one indie author at a time.